Hi, Blastpop here. Today I'm taking a look at Stalingrad Verdun on the Volga, a last stand game. This, I believe, is a company that is associated with Against the Odds magazine and TPS, which is Turning Point Simulations. This is a fully professional box game, mounted boards, um, larger counters, a rules book, 4 charts and tables, and a historical reference guide and additional information booklets. This comes in a more or less a standard 2-inch style box. The game is designed by Mike Granella, and who seems to be the Pied Piper of area movement and combat games along the lines of the Storm over Arnhem game, which was from back in 1980, which is actually something I had playtested years and years ago. Great game. This game tends to be more in the line of Storm over Arnhem than some of the other Stalingrad iterations that occurred over the years, which included Turning Point Stalingrad, which was by Avalon Hill and was published in the early 90s. That game, while part of that system was a little more fiddly with respect to activations and so on and so forth. And then you had Storm over Stalingrad by MMP, which I believe is also by Mike Granella. And that also included cards, but this game tends to go back to the original simplicity of Storm over Arnhem to a certain degree. And from what I gather, the game is very playable, very likable, and I picked it up on the recommendation of some friends that made a very strong recommendation for it. That being said, I've yet to unpunch the counters or more than peruse the rules, in all honesty. But I did want to get this on tape and up online because I believe the game's out of print, and I know of no other plans to reprint it, although I suppose it's a possibility at some point. The game, when it first came out, retailed for $99, which, given the components, while they're nice, I thought that might be a little, overpriced or kind of spendy from my perspective. Having said that, though, I'd like to say that I was able to get a copy privately from somebody else for probably about 2/3 that price. So I'm happy with it. It was a pre-owned copy, but again, it was never played before. Anyway, aside from the box front, you have the back, and you actually see a full representation on the map. Now, given the dynamics of my phone and my setup here, it's difficult to get the entire board in one place. So here's the entire board, and you got your various zones. You got zones on the edge, areas in the interior, and various tracks throughout. A sample of the pieces. These are, I believe, approximately either 5/8 or 3/4 inch. I think they're 5/8 size counters. Actually, it says right there, there's 346 5/8 counters, a 44 by 17 inch map, the rule book, historical notes, and player aid cards. And here's an inset of the Red October works. Your rules of play, 24 pages, but that also includes the cover, which doubles as your index. And on the back, you have some charts, and you have a glossary as well as designer's notes. So, and then examples of play. So the actual gameplay rules probably is more closer to 8 to 10 pages when you take out illustrations and so on and so forth. Especially here. Here's the setup at game start. Give you a sense of what forces are on the board. Doesn't look like a lot of forces, but the gameplay is rather large from what I gather from what my friends have told me. So aside from the setup, you got your sample of your playing pieces, movement factor, combat factor, your setup code where they set up. Information about the zones and the map board in general. You prepare for play, your sequence of play, reinforcement phase, maneuver phase, refit phase, end phase, stacking, impulses, movement. So you don't move everybody out at once. There's a little bit of back and forth between the players, so that kind of adds an element of interest and interactivity and keep people engaged and in the game. Movement, support markers like Stukas, example of play. Artillery support, Soviet hero marker, storm groups, combat, mandatory attacks, optional assaults, overruns, retreats, glossy paper, advantage marker, basically allows you to kind of take back a bad result for lack of a quicker explanation. Refit, more examples, fortifications and Robo. Robo played a huge part in this battle. Logistic zones, first turn special rules, victory condition side determination. So it touches all the food groups when it comes to a Stalingrad game. Or at least the battle for the city itself. Also included are 2 counter sheets. They are the Brown Core. They're thick, but not as thick as some of the more recent available games from, say, GMT. But they're nicely thick, nice size. Probably I'll end up clipping the counters, much to the horror of some people. Your backside or your reduced side. Please pause if you want to take a longer look. And then additional markers in additional Soviet units as well. You have setup cards. And it tells you the zone that the units begin in, what they are. It's on a cardstock, almost like it was done on a personal computer or printer, but it's adequate. German reinforcements, the turn number they come in, what they are. Place for eliminated units. Oh, and also on the first setup sheet is place for your various support markers. Keep them in one handy dandy location, as there is room actually on the board for both players to put them, but for setup purposes at least. Similarly, for the Soviets, your setup locations, additionally locations that have rubble to start, probably from the prior German air attacks before the battle began in earnest. Soviet reinforcements, much the same. And here, forces that are only engaged in campaign gameplay, as well as on the German one as well. These forces are only for the campaign and not the shorter starting off scenario. And beyond that, you've got a 20, maybe not even 20, about a 20-page booklet, mostly of historical information with respect to the battle. So you have an article by Mike Ranella, and the Battle of Stalingrad by David Glanz and Jonathan House, 2 notable individuals whose work needs no introduction. And then another article of the aftermath of the death of the 6th Army, suggested reading, and a table on the back for some of the German forces. Illustrated. Some good quick reading. To set the mood. And finally, we have the game board. It's mounted, nicely mounted, solid. And as mentioned, it's a two-piece board, and you got your zones out here, and they go around the entire board. You have places for your support markers and your advantage marker, if you possess it at the time. And this is a forested area, this is a clear, and this is city or industrial. You've got your rivers, bridges. These are the modifiers for the area when you do combat. The zone numbers printed. The zone number is printed in black. It's a German setup area. Soviets control the white areas at start, and then additionally, the other map. You've got a track here, a turn record track over here, and it's very nice board. Understated, allows the units to pop on the board instead of the terrain causing the units to be lost on the game board itself. And then it's lengthwise, these boards connect. And I'll try to show you as much of the board that's continuous as possible here, given my setup. And this is on the Volga, this side of the board. And there's your play area. Very nicely done. I like the board a lot, and this was recorded between Christmas and New Year's of 2020, so I hope to get this on the table during my work break. So the components you get: also 4d6 in your box. Please comment, like, and subscribe. This is Blastpop. Bye.